Hi, I'm Josh Fielstra, lead product specialist with Native Instruments North America, and I'm going to be showing you guys a little bit about Core 2. For those of you who might not be familiar with the Core concept, I just kind of like to jump in and give you a quick overview of how you can use Core to quickly find sounds. Here I've got the Core 2 interface directly loaded, and we kind of like to structure the workflow in Core 2 around 3 words, which is find, play, tweak. So to give you an example of that, I'll start out by finding a sound that is looking for a sound. I'll say I'm looking for a synth lead, so I'm going to click on synth lead. I'll make it a classic mono lead, and then I'll choose distorted. And that gives me a number of results over here on the right-hand side that meet the criteria that I've chosen on the left-hand side here. So let's just go ahead and pop one of these in here. I'll try the first preset. This one called Mod Wheel Baby. And indeed, we have a monophonic lead that is distorted and works well as a synth lead. The excellent thing is that as soon as I load a sound into Core and I play it, I then have instant hands-on control. This is the tweak part I was telling you earlier. So here's my Mod Wheel Baby patch, and directly on the Core controller, I have hands-on access to that song. So if I want to tweak it out a little bit, say change the filter cutoff, I can do that directly on the controller. And what you're seeing here on the controller, this is a control page that's specific to that instrument that I've loaded. Every single Core sound that you load will have its own dedicated control page so that you have hands-on control to the things you're most likely going to want to change for that sound. So in this particular sound, I have an FM8 patch. FM has some awesome morphing features, FM8 does, so I have access to the morphing for the X and Y. I can also change the effects dry mix right on here, wet dry. I can change the attack time and the release time as well, and I can do those things instantly the second I load a sound. So that's what the Core controller is doing for us. So let's find another sound. In this instance, let's say I'm looking for a bass, then an analog bass, and let's make it fat. And then I'll load one of these sounds here. Let's choose this one in Reactor called Cosmonaut. And I'll load this one in. Now the first patch that I loaded was coming from FM8, and the second one is coming from Reactor 5. Notice that I don't particularly have to care which instrument that it's coming from. I make the criteria. I specify to Core 2 what kind of sound that I'm looking for, whether it's a lead or it's a bass, and then Core 2 does the work of actually finding which instrument it can come from. In fact, if I don't want to, I don't have to concern myself at any time with which instrument is actually making the sound. I can just focus on the fact that it's the sound I'm looking for, or if I then want to tweak it out a little bit on the controller, I can do that immediately. And here you can see we have a completely different control page for this instrument. I have cutoff, but now I have different parameters in the other slots. I have an FM amount, which dirties it up a little bit. So an awesome new thing that we've added to Core 2, and this is unique to Core 2, this wasn't in Core 1, is something that we call sound variations. And if you look up here at the top, you can see these kind of 8 different squares. Each one of those represents an individual variation on this particular sound. So for instance, in our massive patch, I've got one particular variation I've got there. If I want to hear another one, I click the second one, and that's a new variation. I click the third one, that sounds totally different. The good thing is that I can get to that directly via the Core controller as well. I can dial in those variations directly. So here's one variation. So all the sounds that come directly with Core 2 have these sound variations built right in. As kind of the icing on the cake, I don't have to directly dial each of those variations. I can also morph between them using the knobs on the Core controller. So that's Core's sound variations at work. Something else that we we've added to Core 2 to make that's different from Core 1. We've added a few more effects. We've tweaked the effects out a little bit more. We've also changed the structure inside here. I did this example a moment ago where I loaded an analog bass. But let's say that I want it to be even heavier and thicker. So I'm going to layer it with another bass directly. So I'll turn off the fat tag, and then I'll come click on percussive because I want to add a little bit more percussive effect to this sound. So I'm going to load another bass sound directly in here. Let's choose this one, Analog Classic, and I'm just going to drag it and drop it directly next to this other sound I loaded. Now I've got both sounds at once. A very, very fat layered bass here. In fact, I can continue to add as many things as I want from left to right, and these will all sound in parallel. So we've made the structure a little clearer here inside Core 2 so that you can see exactly what's going on at any moment. And keep in mind, since I've selected this particular sound, I immediately have hands-on control with the Core controller immediately. We've also given you guys a lot of cool tools to work with inside Core. We've given you things like a step sequencer. So I'll just put the step sequencer on this channel. And like all objects inside Core, this one is also immediately controllable via the Core controller. So if I want to go to the Core controller here, I can go in here and tweak out the start and end. Making all those changes right on the Core controller. So we've given you a step sequencer, also an arpeggiator, very similar to the arpeggiator in FM8, as well as a MIDI player. If you want to load MIDI files in and have them trigger instruments inside Core 2, you can certainly do that as well. So that's kind of a basic flyby of the features inside Core 2. Find, play, and tweak. And Core, of course, comes with the Core 2 hardware as well. That's kind of the Core 2 in a nutshell.